Gothenburg is the second largest city in Sweden and the fifth largest in the Nordic countries. Situated by the Kattegatt, on the west coast of Sweden, the city proper has a population of 543,005, with 549,839 in the urban area and 973,261 inhabitants in the metropolitan area. Gothenburg was founded by royal charter in 1621 by King Gustavus Adolphus. At the mouth of the Göta-älv, the port of Gothenburg is the largest port in the Nordic countries. Gothenburg is home to many students, as the city includes both the University of Gothenburg and Chalmers University of Technology. Volvo was founded in Gothenburg in 1927. The city is a major center for sports and a home to the IFK Göteborg, BK Häcken, GAIS, and Örgrytes Association football teams. The team handball team Redberg Slidike, as well as the Frölunda HC ice hockey team. Gothenburg is served by Göteborg Landvetter Airport, located 30 kilometers southeast of the city center. The smaller Göteborg City Airport, located 15 kilometers from the city center, was closed to regular airline traffic in 2015. The city hosts some of the largest annual events in Scandinavia. The Gothenburg Film Festival, held in January since 1979, is the leading Scandinavian film festival with over 155,000 visitors each year. In summer, a wide variety of music festivals are held in the city, such as Way Out West and Metal Town. The annual Gothia Cup is the world's largest football tournament with regards to the number of participants. In 2011, a total of 35,200 players from 1,567 teams and 72 nations participated. Name: the city was named after the Geats, the inhabitants of Gothia, now southern Sweden, i.e., Geat Castle. The river on which the city sits is the Göta-älv or Gothia River. Göteborg Gothia Fortress is the fort on the Göta-älv, built to protect the port. In Dutch, Scots, and English, all being languages with a long history of being spoken in this trade and maritime-oriented city. The name Gothenburg is used for the city. The French form of the city name is Gothenburg, but in French texts, the Swedish name Göteborg is more frequent. Gothenburg can also be seen in some older English texts. These traditional forms are now sometimes replaced with the use of the Swedish Göteborg, for example by the Göteborg Opera and the Göteborg Ballet. However, Göteborgs Universitet, previously designated as the Göteborg University in English, changed its name to the University of Gothenburg in 2008. The Gothenburg municipality has also reverted to the use of the English name in international contexts. Other old variations in Swedish are Gothenburg, and the more common Gothenburg. One English text, written in the late 15th century, states the name as Gothenburg. In 2009, the city council launched a new logotype for Gothenburg. Since the name of Göteborg contains the Swedish letter O, the idea was to make the name more international and up-to-date by turning the O sideways. As of 2015 update, the name is spelled Göteborg on a large number of signs in the city. History: in the early modern period, the configuration of Sweden's borders made Gothenburg strategically critical as the only Swedish gateway to the North Sea and Atlantic. Situated on the west coast in a very narrow strip of Swedish territory between Danish Halland in the south and Norwegian Bohuslän in the north. After several failed attempts, Gothenburg was successfully founded in 1621 by King Gustavus Adolphus. The site of the first church built in Gothenburg, subsequently destroyed by Danish invaders, is marked by a stone near the north end of the Älvsborg Bridge in the Fardinus Park. The church was built in 1603 and destroyed in 1611. The city was heavily influenced by the Dutch, Germans, and Scots, and Dutch planners and engineers were contracted to construct the city as they had the skills needed to drain and build in the marshy areas chosen for the city. The town was designed like Dutch cities such as Amsterdam, Batavia and New Amsterdam. The planning of the streets and canals of Gothenburg closely resembled that of Jakarta, which was built by the Dutch around the same time. The Dutchmen initially won political power, and it was not until 1652, when the last Dutch politician in the city's council died, that Swedes acquired political power over Gothenburg. During the Dutch period, the town followed Dutch town laws and Dutch was proposed as the official language in the town. Robust city walls were built during the 17th century. In 1807, a decision was made to tear down most of the city's wall. The work started in 1810, and was carried out by 150 soldiers from the Bohus regiment. Along with the Dutch, the town also was heavily influenced by Scots who settled down in Gothenburg. Many became people of high profile. William Chalmers, the son of a Scottish immigrant, donated his fortunes to set up what later became the Chalmers University of Technology. In 1841, the Scotsman Alexander Kaler founded the Göteborg Shipbuilding Company that was in business until 1989. His son James Kaler donated Kaler Park to the city in 1906. The Gothenburg coat of arms was based on the lion of the coat of arms of Sweden, symbolically holding a shield with the national emblem, the three crowns, to defend the city against its enemies. In the Treaty of Roskilde, Denmark-Norway ceded the then Danish province Halland, in the south, and the Norwegian province of Bohus County or Bohuslän in the north, leaving Gothenburg less exposed. Gothenburg was able to grow into a significant port and trade center on the west coast, because it was the only city on the west coast that, along with Marstrand, was granted the rights to trade with merchants from other countries. In the 18th century, fishing was the most important industry. However, in 1731, the Swedish East India Company was founded, and the city flourished due to its foreign trade with highly profitable commercial expeditions to China. The harbour developed into Sweden's main harbour for trade towards the west, and when Swedish emigration to the United States increased, Gothenburg became Sweden's main point of departure for these travelers. The impact of Gothenburg as a main port of embarkation for Swedish emigrants is reflected by Gothenburg, Nebraska, a small Swedish settlement in the United States. With the 19th century, Gothenburg evolved into a modern industrial city that continued on into the 20th century. The population increased tenfold in the century, from 13,000 to 130,000 in the 20th century. Major companies that developed included SKF and Volvo. Geography. Gothenburg is located on the west coast, in southwestern Sweden, about halfway between the capitals Copenhagen, Denmark, and Oslo, Norway. The location at the mouth of the Göta which feeds into Kattegat, an arm of the North Sea, has helped the city grow in significance as a trading city. The archipelago of Gothenburg consists of rough barren rocks and cliffs, which also is typical for the coast of Bohuslän. Due to the Gulf Stream, the city has a mild climate and moderately heavy precipitation. It is the second largest city in Sweden after capital Stockholm. The Gothenburg metropolitan area has 816,931 inhabitants and extends to the municipalities of Ale, Alingsås, Göteborg, Härryda, Kungälv, Lerum, Lilla Edet, Mölndal, Partille, Stenungsund, Tjörn, Ockelbo in Västra Götaland County, and Kungsbacka in Halland County. Angered, a suburb outside Gothenburg, consists of Hjällbo, Eriksbo, Rannebergen, Hammarkullen, Gadsden, and Lövgårdet. It is a million-program part of Gothenburg, like Rosengård in Malmö and Botkyrka in Stockholm. Angered had about 50,000 inhabitants in 2015. It lies north of Gothenburg and is isolated from the rest of the city. Bergsjön is another million-program suburb north of Gothenburg. It has 14,000 inhabitants. Biskopsgården is the biggest multicultural suburb on the island of Hisingen, which is a part of Gothenburg but separated from the city by the river. Climate: Gothenburg has an oceanic climate according to Köppen climate classification. Despite its northern latitude, temperatures are quite mild throughout the year and much warmer than places in similar latitude. For example, Stockholm, or even somewhat further south, mainly because of the moderating influence of the warm Gulf Stream. During the summer, daylight extends 18 hours and 5 minutes, but lasts 6 hours and 32 minutes in late December. The climate has become significantly milder in latter decades, particularly in summer and winter. July temperatures used to be below Stockholm's 1961 to 1990 averages, but have since been warmer than that benchmark. Summers are warm and pleasant with average high temperatures of 19 to 20 degrees Celsius and lows of 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. But temperatures of 25 to 30 degrees Celsius occur on many days during the summer. Winters are cold and windy with temperatures of around -3 to 3 degrees Celsius, though it rarely drops below -15 degrees Celsius. Precipitation is regular but generally moderate throughout the year. Snow mainly occurs from December to March, but is not unusual in November and April and can sometimes occur even in October and May. In extreme cases even in September. Parks and nature: Gothenburg has several parks and nature reserves ranging in size from tens of square meters to hundreds of hectares. It also has many green areas that are not designated as parks or reserves. Selection of parks: Kungsparken, 13 hectares, built between 1839 and 1861, surrounds the canal that circles the city centre. Garden Society of Gothenburg, a park and horticultural garden, is located next to Kungssportsavenyn. Founded in 1842 by the Swedish King Carl XIV Johan and on initiative of the amateur botanist Henrik Elof von Norman. The park has a noted rose garden with some 4,000 roses of 1,900 cultivars. Slottsskogen, Gothenburg's largest park, 137 hectares, was created in 1874 by August Cobb. It has a free, open zoo that includes harbor seals, penguins, horses, pigs, deer, moose, goats, and many birds. The Natural History Museum and the city's oldest observatory are located in the park. The annual Way Out West Festival is held in the park. Angersbergens Naturreservat, 320 hectares, was bought in 1840 by pharmacist Arvid Gren, and donated in 1963 to the city by Sven and Carl Gren Broberg, who stated the area must remain a nature and bird reserve. It lies partly in Mölndal. Delsjumredets Naturreservat, about 760 hectares, has been in use since the 17th century as a farming area. Significant forest management was carried out in the late 19th century. Skates Gym and Motion Centrum is situated here. Ryaskogs Naturreservat, 17 hectares, became a protected area in 1928. It contains remnants of a defensive wall built in the mid to late 17th century. Kailas Park was donated by James Kaler in 1906. He was the son of Scottish Alexander Kaler, who founded the Gothenburg Shipbuilding Company. S.A. Headlands Park. Sven Adolf Hedlund, newspaper publisher and politician, bought the 15 hectares Buslat farm in 1857, and in 1928 it was given to the city. Hysingsparken is Gothenburg's biggest park. Flunsisparken, built in 1950, has many free activities during the summer such as concerts and theatre. Gothenburg Botanical Garden, 175 hectares, opened in 1923. It won an award in 2003, and in 2006 was third in the Most Beautiful Garden in Europe competition. It has around 16,000 species of plants and trees. The greenhouses contain around 4,500 species including 1,600 orchids. It is considered to be one of the most important botanical gardens in Europe, with 3 stars in the French Guide Rouge. Architecture. Very few houses are left from the 17th century when the city was founded, since all but the military and royal houses were built of wood. A rare exception is the Skansen Kronen. The first major architecturally interesting period is the 18th century, when the East India Company made Gothenburg an important trade city. Imposing stone houses in classical style were erected around the canals. One example from this period is the East India House, which today houses the Gothenburg City Museum. In the 19th century, the wealthy bourgeoisie began to move outside the city walls which had protected the city. The style now was an eclectic, academic, somewhat over-decorated style which the middle class favored. The working class lived in the overcrowded city district Haga in wooden houses. In the 19th century, the first comprehensive town plan after the founding of city was created, which led to the construction of the main street, Kungsportsvägen. Perhaps the most significant type of houses of the city, Landshövdingshusen, were built in the end of the 19th century, 3-story houses with the first floor in stone and the other 2 in wood. The early 20th century, characterized by the National Romantic style, was rich in architectural achievements. Masthug Church is a noted example of the style of this period. In the early 1920s, on the city's 300th anniversary, the Götaplatsen Square with its neoclassical look was built. After this, the predominant style in Gothenburg and rest of Sweden was functionalism, which especially dominated the suburbs such as Västra Frölunda and Bergsjön. The Swedish functionalist architect Uno Ahre served as city planner from 1932 through 1943. In the 1950s, the big stadium Ullevi was built when Sweden hosted the 1958 FIFA World Cup. The modern architecture of the city has been formed by such architects as Gert Wingårdh, who started as a postmodernist in the 1980s. Gustav Adolf Square is a town square located in central Gothenburg. Noted buildings on the square include Gothenburg City Hall and the Nordic Classicism Law Court. The main canal of Gothenburg also flanks the square. Characteristic buildings. The Gothenburg Central Station is in the center of the city, next to Nordstan and Drottninggatan. The building has been renovated and expanded numerous times since the grand opening in October 1858. In 2003, a major reconstruction was finished which brought the 19th century building into the 21st century, expanding the capacity for trains, travelers, and shopping. Not far from the central station is the Skanska Skrapan, or more commonly known as the Lipstick. It is 86 meters high with 22 floors and colored in red-white stripes. The skyscraper was designed by Ralph Erskine and built by Skanska in the late 1980s as the headquarters for the company. By the shore of the Göta älv at Lillebommen is the Göteborg Opera. It was completed in 1994. The architect Jan Izakowicz was inspired by the landscape and described his vision as something that makes your mind float over the squiggling landscape like the wings of a seagull. Fiskekårka, or Fiskallen, is an indoor fish market by the Rosenlandskanalen in central Gothenburg. Fiskekårkan was opened on 1 November 1874 and its name from the building's resemblance to a Gothic church. The Gothenburg City Hall is in the Beaux Arts architectural style. The Gothenburg Synagogue at Stora Nygatan, near Drottninggatan, was built in 1855 according to the designs of the German architect August Kruger. The Gunnebo House is a country house located to the south of Gothenburg, in Mölndal. It was built in a neoclassical architecture towards the end of the 18th century. Created in the early 1900s was the Vasa Church. It is located in Vasastan and is built of granite in a neo-Romanesque style. Another noted construction is Broderie Moss and TV Tower, one of the few partially guide towers in the world.